So good afternoon, everybody. I trust you're all feeling energized, but not exhausted. Yes? Okay, so it means that you'll have the energy to listen to me for the next half hour before we split into various groups. And I'm here today to talk to you about our successes to date. John's already mentioned a couple of times that it's our 20th anniversary this year, and I'll be hinting at some of the things we'll be doing in the future. So first of all, welcome to those of you who are here in the room, but also very much welcome to those of you who are on the Zoom call. CLL support, we see ourselves as having three core roles. So to communicate with you, to support you, and to advocate for you. And as John also said earlier, we always welcome feedback from you on how we are doing. So I'm going to talk about those three areas, and I'm going to use the posters next door and refer to them as examples of what we've been doing in those areas. And if you're on the Zoom call, so you can't see the posters, they are all up on our website, and anybody in the room that wants to study them in more detail, you're very much welcome to do so. So the first of those areas is about communicating with you. And so, as you can see on the poster I've got here, we've got a very proactive website. We keep on refreshing it, bringing it up to date. When we talk to our website developers about the extent of changes we want to make, and they can't quite keep up with us, and we say to them, well, what do you do for everybody else? And they say, well, actually, nobody else seems to want to change their websites. So we're very special in wanting to keep the information absolutely up to date for you. We're on social media, getting more active on social media. We send you all a newsletter every 3 months. We send you bulletins between that with other things that are happening. We've got our International Health Unlocked support group that's got over 23,000 people on it. We have a fantastic under-60s WhatsApp group, and the person that's made it the fantastic group that it is Nora, who's here in the room, the lady with the microphone. I give her a new label. So that does a fantastic job, very much helping people that are at stages where they're trying to keep their careers or their partner's careers going, as well as coping with the diagnosis. So that's why they've got a special group, if you like. And we've got a helpline that you can ring up any time. So very much examples of how we communicate with you. And the other thing, of course, the obvious way that we communicate is through our conferences. So here you've got a whole picture here. You won't be able to read it, but you can read it outside in the break if you want to afterwards, telling you about the purpose of our conferences. And John has done us so proud today with the program he's put together, where we've got something for everybody. And I think that's so important, whatever stage you're at with your diagnosis, whether you're somebody with CLL or SLL, whether you're the person with the condition or the partner or supporter of the person with the condition. Whoever you are, we've got something for everybody in our conference programs. And absolutely the opportunity to come along and meet other people with CLL. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and she was saying, you're the first other person I've met that's got CLL, and I actually felt very privileged that I was the one. So it's that opportunity to find there are other people in the same situation. And then moving on to the ways that we support you, we've got Support Act, and I'll talk about that a little more when we get to the poster. We've just completed our second member survey. 1,110 responses. So I'm looking at Gavin. Gavin is nodding approvingly. Anybody that's been involved with research will nod approvingly at 1,110 responses. So, and in fact, it was getting on for a 30% response rate of the people we asked to reply. So very, very sound information to inform what we're doing. And we very much talk about the phrase, we asked, you said, we did, and we introduced that phrase after our first survey because we asked you, what do you want us to do? And you said, will you please do this? And so we did something. And we're here again today, and I'll talk about that just in a minute. And the third area I'm going to talk about here is Challenge 20. So Cherry's not in the room at the moment, but I think it's nearly 35,000 that we're up to, including gift aid. I'm looking at John to see if he's nodding. He's nodding, good. So we were hoping to raise £20,000 in our 20th anniversary, but we've got 15 years ahead of ourselves. So, I mean, CLL treatments seem to have got 15 years ahead of themselves, so I think we're following the example. So, Support Act. So, we've heard from Anna 1 about Maggie's, and we heard from Anna 2 about exercise. And what we've got here is something that's very much around the same area of mindfulness and well-being and helping people cope with, make the best of, live with the diagnosis or the diagnosis of their supporter or partner. And I don't know how many of you here listened to Sir Chris Hoy's television programme on Monday evening, but he was absolutely open about talking about the fact that what made him feel as good as possible about his situation was to focus on being here, now, today, not to worry too much about what's happened in the past, not to look too far ahead, but to look at where you are at the moment. And the other thing he said that absolutely ties up with what Support Act is all about is that he said, you aren't supposed to be happy all the time. So this is very much what Support Act is about. This is a tool. It's based on acceptance and commitment therapy. And it's very much about the acceptance is about recognizing this is where you're up to, this is the situation that you're in. But the commitment then is about making those choices about what you want to do about the fact that you're in that situation. So we've got a resource on the website, and we run sessions different times of the day, monthly sessions for people, and we do also offer some one-to-one sessions. And this is something that we feel is so important because when we did our research, our first survey, we discovered that the emotional impact of having CLL was greater than the physical impact of it, and that in fact in both those areas, emotional and physical, the impact was greater for partners than it was for the people with the condition. And so what we're trying to do here is provide an opportunity of helping people to get their heads around the situation and make the best of it that they can. So that's Support Act. Then there's the survey that I mentioned. So there's a poster that we've done. We're very proud of this. The little 6 boxes you can see of the main findings. We've put each of those out in turn on social media. So we've been telling the world about what's been coming out of this. And some of the key points at the bottom, you obviously can't read it, but it does say interesting findings and actions. And so what we find is that 63% of the people diagnosed with CLL are men, and yet over half of our membership are women. So we're trying to work out what more can we do to make sure that men not necessarily join CLL support, but are aware of the importance of looking after their vaccinations and avoiding infections and doing all the prehab that we were talking about before, about keeping themselves as well as possible. Another big topic that came out was the whole prevalence of fatigue, whether you're in active monitoring, whether you're on treatment, whether you're in remission. More than half the people filling in the survey from each of those groups said that fatigue was a side effect, and it was by far the biggest side effect or symptom. So we're now working actively, as John suggested, to try and work out what more can we find out to help you help yourselves around this particular situation. We've also very much been encouraging you, last newsletter was an example, to get all the vaccinations you need and to avoid infections. And we've just been updating with the UK CLL Forum our vaccination passport for you. And then the other thing we're doing, we've got a Zoom call coming up on the 18th of November at 6:30 in the evening that's primarily for the partners and supporters of people who have got CLL. because we feel that you're a very special group and we want to find out, is there any more we can be doing for you? So those are some of the areas we've been pushing on. Then the third thing I mentioned was Challenge 20. So here you are. These are our two intrepid travellers of the world, our Marco Polos of the CLL support world. So David at the top walked from John O'Groats down to Land's End. Some amazing figures here, like 1,196 miles. And then John cycled in the opposite direction. So John is obviously more of a today's man than David, because his distance is metric, whereas David's was in miles. So I don't know which felt further or longer, but anyway, we've got...
He went further.
He went further, right, okay.
He got lost.
Right, see, I don't know whether to believe you now. So fantastic, two individual, and they didn't know they were doing it until John came along to, well, I think he'd got the idea in his mind, and then you ended up talking to David, who, as a follow-up to a patient story, and David said, and by the way, I'm thinking of doing such and such, and John said, well, by the way, but then David was sworn to secrecy until John decided to unveil his big plan. Anyway, these were two of the major activities, but then we had so many other activities, and you'll see all the different things that have happened. Cherry, who's the lady outside looking after us all, her husband Malcolm's here. Cherry's the one that donated 20 ponytails of her hair to help children, young children that had cancer, be able to have wigs when they needed them. So, I mean, and she's now got a stunning hairstyle in a stunning colour. She's threatening even more stunning colours, but Malcolm's banned it, I gather. So you've got mention there of the afternoon teas that my husband Colin and I went out on in order to give ourselves time to think, as we were so busy doing stuff. We're now having to do an awful lot of exercise to recover from the afternoon teas, but there you are. And all sorts of other fantastic things that people got up to doing. And we put up here just 10 of the 20 tips that Molly had shared with us. And number 10 says here, find what makes you happy and ring fence it. So I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. And then the third area we've been involved with is the whole area around advocacy and being here on behalf of the CLL community. As John said, we're the only patient-led CLL dedicated charity. And we feel that responsibility keenly to make sure we do you proud, do everything we can for our community. So we very much sit alongside the UK CLL Forum, which is the group of all the researchers, scientists, clinicians that Dr. Preston's a member of. We work with the Blood Cancer Alliance, we work with Cancer 52, we work with other blood cancer charities, and we get involved with things like health technology assessments and with the SMC and with NICE and so on. And one of the areas where we've been getting more involved recently is the whole area of clinical research and trying to get more of a voice for patients and the public in it. So this is our new initiative that we're calling STAR. STAR stands for Studies, Trials and Research. We felt we had to have an acronym in order to have credibility in the research world. So we've got an acronym. And this is very much around us wanting to, the inform bit on this side of the STAR is very much about, we're going to put another section up on the website with links through. We don't want to reinvent any wheels, but links through to information about what's happening in clinical trials, but also what's happening around the opportunity to get involved as a patient in helping develop other treatments, other initiatives, other interventions that there might be. The convening bit on the left-hand side of the trial, of the STAR, is very much around trying to gather you together as a community. So when we sent out the survey, quite a lot of you ticked a box saying you'd like to get more involved in this area. So we're going to work out how we can engage with you. And so when we get requests to provide input on behalf of patients, whether it's to pharmaceutical companies or to help with new trials, we can then have a group of you that we can go out to and say, would you like to get involved in this? And the connecting at the southwest bit of the star is very much around the links we have with all the other bodies that I've just mentioned. So we're there putting forward, being seen, being noticed, and this is where your 1,100 replies give us so much credibility in the space. And the right-hand bit about promoting in the southeast is very much around pushing for the agenda that matters to you. So what can we do about fatigue in particular? What can we do about quality of life? So these are the areas that we're trying to move forward on and do more about going forward. And then the poster I've got here is one that I saw several of you looking at, and in the middle of it you'll see words like surprise, frightening, worry, shock, disbelief. So what this poster is all about is that the UK CLL Forum asked John and Lelia Dooley, another of our associates, if they would present one of the sessions at the annual online training course they do for all the people working around the CLL community. So one of the 6 was us. The others were very, very senior experts, clinicians, but we gave one of the presentations. And John and Lelia asked you all about your responses to your diagnosis. And the words in the word cloud in the middle are what you came up saying. And so we were able to say to all the medical community, this is how people are seeing it. So would you like to think about how you're doing it? So it was a really good opportunity to try to get that message across. So that was the first poster that we did, and we've got quite carried away with posters still since then, but we feel it's a really good way of showing what we've been up to. And then as to how we do all this, so we've got 2 amazing members of staff, Sarah and Cherry, whom you can see outside. We've got lots of associates and support staff. I'll show you a picture of them in a minute. And we raise the money we need from donations, from fundraising, and we get sponsorship from the pharmaceutical companies. So all your support, whether it's in words or in money, all helps us do what we're doing. And for our 20th anniversary, we put together a picture of lots of us. So this is, and what I'm hoping is good about this is that you'll find somebody there that looks quite like you, and that all of us are really, that have been involved as trustees or associates, we're all quite normal. We don't look any different because we're a trustee. I mean, I think trustees as a whole, I'm just looking at Nora's face, and I know what I do, we tend to smile a lot. But that's probably the main qualification to being a trustee, is being willing to be enthusiastic about what you're doing. And so my final slide, before I give you a chance for any questions you might want to raise about any of this, is that as we go forward, we continually need new trustees and other people keen to help us, so as volunteers. So John has done a phenomenal job for us, but none of us trustees go on forever. We follow the Charity Commission guidance and we step down after an appropriate time. And yet we're very, very committed to providing support to the devolved nations, and you are the biggest one of those. So we would absolutely love to have another volunteer or a prospective trustee based in Scotland. So if anybody might be interested, please have a word with John or with me, or drop us an email afterwards, because we very much want to go on representing your community. And we're just ordinary people doing our best for the CLL community. And so, I mean, if you feel that you're somebody that would like to get involved, then do please have a word. And then I am a chartered accountant, so perhaps I ought to say the last thing is about money. So the last thing says here that if you want to give us a donation, please do. We're fortunate in our financial position in that we don't have to spend all our time worrying about it, but that's because we take great care, we husband our resources, we work very closely with the pharmaceutical companies that support us to make sure they can see that we're a really good way of helping them, them wanting to help us with our education program. So we work hard on all of that. So I'll pause there. Thank you very much indeed.